So before I introduce Michael, I want to make sure that I do highlight the larger initiatives we've been pushing this month, which again is this sense of capacity. What can we do to empower each of ourselves to ensure that we've got both cyber health and security in mind, and all the items and all the practices and everything else that we're carrying out on behalf of your own education, the university, your family, the community. So one of the items that we've been highlighting is there's an opportunity for students to submit ideas that are important. It's a short little video, 3 minutes long. There is an opportunity to be able to have your video highlighted and shared out with the rest of the community. If you haven't submitted, you should. Time is running out. Second, we just saw the video. Third, there is a Slack community that has been moving forward. So again, it's a public community. All kinds of information is being shared out. We have events that are taking place. In fact, that might be a good way to move us forward. We have events that are taking place in November, December, January, and on around cybersecurity. So there's some threat hunting that's taking place in mid-November. There's a smart region large conference that's taking place that's applying that. So a lot of AI ML interest. If that's up in your area of interest, please let us know or join in. There is events that are taking place in December, and then ours, which is the Partner to Protect Arizona, is taking place in January. And if you haven't signed up for this, please do. There's going to be a very strong concerted effort to bring in thought leaders from students all the way up to our business partners. But the larger effort is what can we do as a region to empower ourselves in the larger cyber posture, the evolution of what we're carrying out. So it's actually going to be a wonderful gathering. And before we move in, I'd like to introduce Michael McAndrews. He is Vice President for PacketWatch, an internationally recognized firm that does a tremendous amount of both consultations as well as just-in-time repairs and advisement for individuals that find themselves in a house on fire moment. And I'm sure he'll share a little bit about that as well. He's also a former special agent for the FBI, specializing in network forensic investigations. So if someone can speak thoroughly about a tour of the dark web, it would be Michael.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm good. I got this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So this is not going to be like a normal cybersecurity talk. We're going to have some fun today. I've done this talk in a lot of places. I wasn't always an FBI agent. As a matter of fact, I first met the FBI when I was 12 because I got into a little bit of trouble. And that's okay. It took me down the right path, and I knew where I'd end up. But that was the day an agent came to visit, and I thought, wow, that looks really cool. So I've sat in seats like yours. As a special agent, I investigated intrusions all over the world. I was on a special team. We would be deployed anywhere there was a high-profile intrusion. It happens a lot in your own backyard. You may not be aware of it. There's another university not too far away where I do some guest lecturing occasionally. And does anybody in here, you guys are right about the time, do you remember the Sony hack about 8 to 9 years ago? Probably because you were all kicked off the Sony network and you couldn't play your games for a few days and you were ticked off, right? And parents had credit cards stolen. Yeah, well, we were investigating that, working with the LA office. Turns out that was a denial of service attack, which is kind of the lowest common denominator on the internet. If you're doing a DDoS, you're lame. That's just the way it is, okay? Don't do that. That's noise. But we wanted to find out the people that did the SQL injection attack and stole the credit cards. So what do? We look at the ones who did the DDoS and we said, show us the top offenders. And what do you know? One of the very top offenders came from right here in Tempe. So we show up at his door one day. Well, of course, Mom's like, I don't know, he's a quiet boy, stays in his room all alone. Go figure. Yeah, we're sure, and I'm sure there's going to be some issues there. But it turned out, in another presentation that I give, he was Student of the Month at UAT 1 month when he was currently a student over there doing some things. He had actually gotten in, Ryan, and done a SQL injection exploit against Sony. There was another person that helped him. Together, they both got in trouble. We caught them. Things go forward. What happens on the internet seems like it's nebulous. It seems like it's in this cloud and there's no anonymity out there. Well, or there is anonymity out there. Well, we can always pierce that veil and we can actually bring it to a real person. And as an agent, that was my job. It's very easy for me to track an IP address. You all know that, right? But the hard part is once I get in your house or in your office, I have to figure out who sits at that keyboard. That's the hard part of the job. Who was there at the keyboard? Was it you? Was it you? Was it you? I don't know. That's where interviews and other law enforcement techniques come into play. But today, I'm going the opposite route. And what I'm going to show you is, in case somebody knocks on your door, I'm going to show you how to be anonymous on the internet and how to sit there and say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who that was. I don't know what you're talking about. Asifa? Yeah, okay. We're going to do some things like that today. I'm going to teach you to do some very bad things. Hopefully, this satisfies your curiosity and you don't feel the need to go out and do these bad things. But I'm a firm believer, as I've said, I wasn't always an agent. It takes a thief to catch a thief. You have to think like a hacker to catch a hacker. Hacking is not something I can teach you. I have people all the time, can you teach me to hack? That's like saying, can you teach me to be an artist? Sure, you can do a paint by numbers and you can follow along the steps, but if you really want to be creative, that's something that's in you. That's something you have to bring out as you go forward. And hacking is no different. The definition of a hack is simple, and I'm a hacker. I will tell you right now, even at the FBI, I was a hacker. The definition of a hack is getting a system to do something that the original designer did not intend for it to do. That's it. Sometimes this is a good thing. This is how we find security vulnerabilities, and this is how we make things better, and we improve. Because if I don't find it and fix it, then somebody else is going to find it and exploit it. So security research hacking is a good thing. It's a great field. And hey, I get paid to break stuff. I love it. Okay, it's great. Now, I tell this when I do these talks to, let's just say, later generations, earlier generations than you, old people. A lot of my jokes go well. Today I can't do that. You guys wouldn't get half my jokes. I did see one Patriots fan in there. But one of the things I always tell them is, back in the day of computers, if any of you love the old stuff, we had these big square things called elephant disk, floppy disk. You've probably seen pictures in textbooks, because I guarantee none of you have them. She's smiling. She knows what I'm talking about. Well, in the day, you could buy the elephant floppy disk, a 5 1/4 inch floppy disk. And it was a single-sided, or you could pay more money and buy a double-sided. But if you looked on that floppy disk, there was a little cutout in the top corner. And if you went and got your friendly neighborhood hole punch, and you reached up there on the other side, directly opposite, and snipped it, you instantly had a double-sided disk. They didn't want to manufacture 2 different disks. They just simply manufactured them the same way. One had 2 snips, one had 1. So if you wanted to make a double-sided disk, snip, there it is. That's a hack. That's all it was. Heck, before we had digital, we had cable. And I remember I was a kid and we first got cable, and they had all those little squiggly lines on the screen. And we figured out, if you put a coat hanger around that antenna and zipped it across the room a little bit, you could attenuate the signal and you could get free HBO. Yeah, that's how we had to do it, folks. I'm sorry. We really had to do that. We didn't have the internet back then. So that's how you did it. That was a hack. Those are hacks. So hacking is a good thing. Unfortunately, if you take those skills and you try to extort somebody, take advantage of them, steal from them, okay, that's the crime. And as an agent, that's what I would investigate. I'm investigating the same crimes that we've had for years, just using new tools. But if you try to steal my stuff or extort me for money, that's a problem, and that's the crime. But if you use those skills for good, I applaud you. I want everybody in here to think like a hacker. Think, how can I break stuff? That way I can make it better. I had great sources, and I would tell them that all the time. So when I teach you this stuff today, I'm going to teach you how to do some very bad things. On the other side of it, once you know how to do it, think to yourself, okay, how can we stop that? If I'm in a company and I'm trying to protect my company's intellectual property, how would I look for this? How would I tell if somebody's on my network doing it? Okay, he taught me how to not get caught, but let's see maybe how I would catch them. Think like that. Turn it around. And we're going to go through and do some of that today. So if I'm going to talk about the dark web, I have to do this. I hate it. It's my obligatory iceberg photo. Everybody has an iceberg photo when they talk about the web, right? It's the way it goes. It kind of has to. It's in the manual. So, World Wide Web. And by the way, I'm very technical, but this is a very non-technical talk. I try to keep it simple. But if anybody wants to hit me with some technical things today, as long as we don't get too deep, I'll answer them. Otherwise, we'll take it offline and do it after. But feel free to hit me with questions anytime along the way. I'm very informal about it. We try to have a good time. So, back to this. World Wide Web. World Wide Web is only about 4% of the internet. It's what we call indexed. Walk on this side so you see my shadow over here instead for a while. There you go. 4% is indexed. What indexed means is if you type it in Google and you get an answer, that's indexed. They send out their bots. They send them out to read everything on your web page. Now, most good bots are respectful of the little robot's text file that says, look, don't go further and read these pages, only read this one. If I'm in sales, I want my sales page right there in front of you. I want it to come up in Google. I absolutely do. But there's other pages on the internet that you still get through a normal browser, a normal internet connection. They just don't come up in Google. Company intranets, email, things like that. If you know where to click or you know what address to type in, you get there through a normal web browser. It just doesn't come up in Google. That's what we call deep web. And that, believe it or not, makes up 94% of the internet. Most sites out there are not indexed. Most pages are not indexed. Only the top layer is. And that's why they give us the iceberg. But we know that, and that's all fine. But let's talk about the fun stuff. Let's talk about the 2% that's hidden. You cannot get there through a normal web browser. You still use regular internet, but you got to know how to get there. You got to know the address. You got to know the secret way. That's the dark web. And that's what we're going to talk about today that's a lot more fun. Now, it's been in the news a lot lately. As a matter of fact, this was just on the 15th of the month. $26 million were leaked out of a fraudulent card hacking site. Somebody got in, hacked the hackers, and stole all the cards. Now, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Hacking the hackers.
Good.
Good. Okay. I like it. Why is it good?
Caught the bad guys.
Well, actually, they didn't catch anybody. But what they did was they released all the credit cards into the wild where the banking companies have their own little technical people looking at this and go, oh my God, let me get that list of credit cards. Are any of them ours? Do our customers have these? Okay, we're reissuing right now. And then you get stuff in the mail that says, hey, we have reason to believe you've been compromised. Oh, bullcrap, they know darn well you were compromised. They're just playing it that way, and they're going to send you a new card. But it saves them money. So when they got hacked and these cards were released, that was a good thing because now they're worthless to the hackers. And it saves the company's money. Now, right over here, we have a drug dealer who we might even find somebody like this today. And this was, I think, yesterday this came out. Had to forfeit $150,000 in Bitcoin. And I'll tell you something, that's really not that much. 150K in Bitcoin nowadays, really not that much. The ransomware that's going on, right before I came in here, we had another school system hit with ransomware. The Ryuk ransomware is running rampant. On average, they want $150,000 per incident if you get hit with Ryuk. They're really expensive. So $150,000 alone nowadays is nothing. We track some of these coin accounts, and there's millions floating around out there. So, but for one individual having to give up $150K in Bitcoin, that was substantial. The courts are now recognizing it, ill-gotten gains. Just like if I sold you stolen property and put it in my bank account, they're now recognizing, hey, this Bitcoin stuff, this virtual currency, this is real. This is worth something. So by the time you guys are out there doing all kinds of great stuff, virtual currency may be, cryptocurrency may be a standard. I know already there are several banks that are doing their own blockchains. And eventually it'll probably all come down to that. Right now, a lot of the banks don't care for it because, quite frankly, I think it's just because they can't control it. I personally bank with Chase, and I can tell you if Chase catches you going to Coinbase or something like that and you're trading out and getting Bitcoin, which by the way, Bitcoin is not illegal. Bitcoin is perfectly legal. You can pay utility bills with Bitcoin. But the banks can't control it, and some banks like Chase have been known that if you transfer money, will say, you have a suspicious account, and they'll close it. I had BMO Harris, and BMO Harris didn't seem to care. I traded with Coinbase quite often. Getting Bitcoin is probably half the battle right now. If you know how to get Bitcoin without paying exorbitant fees, then you're already in the cryptocurrency game. I think that'll come around when the banks get their own blockchain, it'll be bigger. But right now, the courts are recognizing it. Also, things you're going to see is a lot of takedowns. We had a big opioid takedown. They've taken down all kinds of websites lately. People doing bad things out there. Some of these websites we're going to look at today. But there's also good things on the dark web. A while back, WikiLeaks put a site out on the dark web. A few other people put sites on the dark web. I think it wasn't the Secret Service. DHS, I believe, just opened a site on the dark web. They did it, and then this came out, as a matter of fact, today. BBC just put a Tor site out for the BBC. So not all things on the dark web are bad. Not all things are bad. You can do some good stuff on the internet, on the dark web. So we talked about the iceberg, and we said this is indexed, this is not indexed, but you have to just use a regular browser. But to get to the good stuff, you have to know how to get there. You have to know the address, and you have to know what you're doing. All right, that's all fine. But I like to look at it a totally different way. How many of you guys in here have ever heard about a speakeasy? Let me get some hands. You guys remember speakeasies? You weren't there. Neither was I, thank God, right? But you know the whole premise. Prohibition. You try to tell people they can't do something, people tend to say, oh yeah, watch this. So they created speakeasies. I love traveling. I travel a lot. And every time I go, I usually go to this website called Thrillist. Thrillist, if you guys have ever seen it. I usually type in hidden bars and speakeasies in whatever town I'm in. And there's some great ones. I was in Denver not long ago. There's an ice cream shop. And kids are out there eating ice cream. It's so cool. But if you walk into the freezer and push a certain button, all of a sudden the back of the freezer opens up and you walk in there and there's a room about half this size that's a bar. And it's a full-on bar with mixologists, and they set you up, and it's really, really cool, and it's hidden in the back. I just think that stuff is a lot of fun. There's a few others I've been to. As a matter of fact, right here in Phoenix, I don't know that any of you would recognize this, but by chance does anyone recognize it? No? Where? Did I hear something?
The Biltmore.
Yeah, Biltmore. This is the Biltmore. So back in the day, the Biltmore was considered out in the boondocks. But you could put somebody up on top of the hill, and if they saw the law was a-coming, they could holler, hide the hooch, and everybody would scramble, okay? This was a real live speakeasy at the Biltmore. You could go in there and drink your libations and enjoy it and not get caught, and they could see the law coming from a long way away. This room is still active at the Biltmore. Now, it's still open once a month. On a Sunday, they open it through the afternoon and evening, and you can go in there and enjoy an alcoholic beverage in your favorite speakeasy. But sticking with the times, you still have to know how to get there, and you still have to know the password. But can anybody guess how you get the password now? Facebook. Yeah, it's Facebook. They put it on once a month on Facebook. They're changing with the times. But that's a real speakeasy right here in Phoenix from the real time. So what are we going to do? We're going to talk about some overt sites today where you can go to through a normal web browser and learn a little bit more about the dark web. Then I'm going to talk about anonymizers, hidden services. Then we got the drugs, the guns, the malware. Oh my. I was hoping to take you live on the dark web, but we're having some connection issues, so no worries. I've done this so much. I've got some great screenshots. We'll have a good time, and you guys, you'll get it. Trust me, you'll get it. We have to talk about cryptocurrency for a minute. Then we're going to discuss buying, selling, and shipping. If we get our bad stuff, our guns, our drugs, and our malware, how do we buy it, sell it, and ship it? We'll talk about scams, takedowns, and then I'm going to tell you what the new cool hotness is. Because, spoiler alert, most of the stuff I'm going to show you today really isn't that active anymore. They're still out there. It's still happening. But they've got the new cool hotness, and I'll tell you why. So let's start with overt sites. This was a site that I used to point people to all the time, deep.web.com. Deep.web.com. You could just go there. You could get your stuff, and you could learn all about who was selling, who got in trouble, different vendors, all this stuff. Well, not too terribly long ago, I tried to go there, and this popped up. Wah, 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 wah. They got shut down. Why did they get shut down? They were just on the regular internet. They weren't doing anything on any dark websites. Well, there was a thing with a lawsuit with Backpage. You guys familiar with Backpage? Well, Backpage, the creators of Backpage, it was the dirty version of Craigslist. That's the easiest way for me to describe it. If it was bad, nasty, and horrible, a lot of times you couldn't find it on Craigslist, but you'd find it on Backpage. Well, unfortunately, Backpage seemed to play a little loose with some of the rules, and according to the indictment, not me, but according to the indictment, the founders, facilitators, and other people working there were covering up crimes. Specifically, they were covering up human trafficking. People would advertise other individuals or services on Backpage, and they would play loose with the rules. Maybe according to the law, if this was a child of yours, you had to report something, and they'd say, well, wait, it wasn't their child, it was a relative. Things like that. They played a little fast and loose. Now, Backpage, of course, maintained their innocence, and the people who behind it said, no, that's not it. We tried to work with law enforcement, but nonetheless, Backpage was shut down. And it was because they were facilitating illegal activities. So, Deep.web had links on their website to go to some of these bad darknet forums. You could go to the Deep.web site, click on a link, and go to a darknet forum. Well, I'll show you a little bit about that. However, I didn't realize it when I would promote it on my little talk, and then I found out once I saw this banner, turns out Deep.web was getting a little piece of the action every time somebody clicked on that link. So they were actually profiting by sending people to sites that were known to do bad things. So, that being said, the authorities stepped in and said, we're shutting you down. Now, anybody here ever heard of Reddit or look at Reddit? Well, there used to be a subreddit specifically for darknet forums, and you could go on there and learn all kinds of stuff about who the vendors were and everything else. But based on the examples that I just gave you, Reddit stepped in and said, look, these subreddits are doing nobody any good. They're only facilitating bad things. We're going to shut these subreddits down. And that's why they closed them down, mainly because of what happened with people like Backpage and with Deep.web. That's why Reddit shut them down. But fear not, it's the internet. So as soon as you shut down one site, another one pops up. So now we have deeponionweb.com. And I dare say there are some links to some bad sites on here. And if you click on these, you will go to the bad site. So I'm not telling you to click on these. They were probably getting a piece of the action as well. But this site effectively does the same thing, deeponionweb.com. If you go to the site, don't give them money by clicking on the links, but you can still get updates on what's happening with different sites, who's been shut down, what vendors are doing what. You can get information. And you can do all of this through your Microsoft Edge, your Firefox, your Chrome, whatever you want. You can get there through a normal web browser, no problem at all. But let's talk about what if we didn't want somebody to know we went there. Because you all know that if we go to this website and an IP address pops up, and it comes up to ASU, then we know that it was somebody at ASU. Then we have to go find out who had that IP address, right? So you guys know how we can track IPs. Yeah, that's nothing new. We know that. So we want to start to be sneaky. How do we get sneaky? Well, there's 3 different ways of anonymizing yourself on the internet, okay? Let's start with the basic one. First one's proxies. Proxies have been around forever. This is where I use my example. What's your name one more time, sir?
Robert.
Okay, Robert. Robert's going to be my example. So I will tell you right now, I really like Starbucks. I enjoy a Starbucks coffee. I happen to like a tall pike place with 3 Splendas. That's a hint, Robert. No, I'm just kidding. Tall pike place with 3 Splendas. But I'm busy right now. And I also, unfortunately, had an incident. I'm not welcome at Starbucks anymore. They don't want to see my face there. Don't ask, we'll talk later. So I'm going to go to Robert, and I'm going to say, Robert, do me a favor. Will you please go to Starbucks and get me a tall pike place with 3 Splendas? He's going to go get my coffee. He's going to get it. He may give them my name. When they say, who's it for? He may give them his name. Doesn't really matter. They're going to write something on the cup. He's going to bring me my coffee. Now, I never went to Starbucks. I never violated that restraining order, okay? Okay, I never went to Starbucks. He did it for me. He acted as my proxy. But what if the FBI is watching me because they said, you were warned not to go to Starbucks? And they see him bring me a coffee. So as soon as he walks off, all of a sudden an agent walks over and says, hey, sir, let me talk to you for a minute. That coffee you just got, was that for you? Who'd you get that for? Now, do I know if he's going to give me up or not? Because some people out there will say, hey, man, I don't talk to the cops. I don't know anything, and just walk off, pound sand. I'm done. On the other hand, oh, yeah, man, I got it for him. I got it for Michael. Michael wanted a coffee, tall pike place, 3 Splendas, I promise, right there. And he may give me up quicker than anything. So I don't know if I can trust him as a proxy. And he's only one removed from me, right? So that's not the best anonymity out there. But we still use proxies occasionally to get around firewalls, to get around other censoring things like web filters. I can say, well, hey, Michael's not allowed to go out, but Robert, maybe Robert has more access than I have. Maybe he's known. Maybe he can get around certain things. He can do it for me. So we'll still use proxies occasionally. But the second thing that came up were VPNs and VPSs, virtual private network or virtual private server or service, depending on how you want to define that. Now, a VPN is different. In a VPN situation, something happened when I was at the FBI. It was an interesting pivot that occurred that people didn't realize happened at the time, and it did. So we would be searching for IP addresses, and every now and then we get an IP that came back and said it went to a VPN. Well, there was one particular case that an agent off the East Coast, he was a new agent, was working, and he sent a subpoena for an IP that came back to a company called HideMyAss.com. And this happens to be their logo, the donkey with the flowers, HideMyAss.com. HideMyAss.com is a VPN provider. Well, we issued a subpoena to them, or this agent did, and to everyone's surprise, they responded. And they said, oh yeah, that IP at this date, this time went to that IP? Yeah, it was this guy. And they gave him up. Well, in the federal system, when we go for search warrants and we do subpoenas and affidavits and stuff like that, a lot of times if it's grand jury, it's secret, there's a lot of legalities. But the bottom line is this. In the criminal system in the United States, everything is public. It becomes public record. So if you get in trouble and it goes to court, unless a judge decides for some extenuating circumstance to seal it, that is public. We can go look that up. Now, if it's on the national security side of the house at the FBI and we're doing an intelligence case, different rules apply. But in this case, it was criminal. So when the agent used that information in a search warrant to go into the gentleman's house, he put it in an affidavit and swore to it in front of a judge. Once that search warrant was executed, that becomes public record. Well, believe me, when the affidavit hit the public that HideMyAss.com had given up one of their subscribers and given them his IP address and his name and all of his subscription information, they got flamed big time. And they lost a lot of customers. So the very next day, all across the internet, all the other VPN providers out there all of a sudden had a new banner on their site. We keep no logs, no logs, no logs. And they don't. So everybody in here should have a VPN. I have a VPN. Matter of fact, I'm logged into my VPN right now. I personally use PIA, or Private Internet Access. I just like it. There's also Nord. There's several others. Ghost, I think they are. Google them. But beware, if you Google and you get a top 10, people pay to be on those lists. So look at several lists and see who's showing up. I think I pay something like 35, 36 bucks a year for a VPN. But everybody in here should have one. Why? Because what a VPN will do is it creates a tunnel from your device, an encrypted tunnel, straight to them. So if I come to the ASU network and I jump on guest and I'm using the guest Wi-Fi, everybody else on the ASU guest Wi-Fi can potentially see my traffic. If I go to an unencrypted website or I do something, people can see where I'm going. They can look at the IPs. Even if it's encrypted, I can tell where you're going. I can pull out patterns and do other things and figure out kind of what you're doing. I can figure out, is it something you're doing or is it a service on your computer doing it? Because services do things very quickly and very often, and the delta between connections is small, so I know it's automated. Okay, whereas people are random and things change. So I can do all kinds of statistical stuff on those connections, even without seeing the traffic, and tell what you're up to. But if I make a VPN connection and I have an encrypted tunnel from me to, in this case, PIA, you can't see anything. You don't know what I'm doing. I'm protected. So the next time you're at a coffee shop, VPN. The next time you're at a hotel, VPN. Traveling, VPN. ASU guest network, VPN. I would. Because otherwise people like me get bored when they get on the wireless at hotels. And I know what you do because I watch it. It's happened. I actually hacked my minibar in Vegas one year. It was really kind of fun. I saw an RJ45 come out of the back of the minibar. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Wow. So I went ahead and plugged into it. And noticed that when you pulled a beer out of the refrigerator, all of a sudden I saw a UDP packet go flying by. So I captured the packet and I opened it up. And it was pretty easy to get my room number out and to get a reasonable price out of it. And then I looked on my TV and I was like, oh, look at that. They just charged me for a beer. Huh. Yeah. So I opened that little bad boy up, opened that packet up with one of my little tools, and I just go ahead and change the room number. And I change a couple other things, and I just fire like 1,000 of them down at the server, just loading them up. And then I call my buddy, I'm like, dude, look at your bill. He's like, what? I go, look at your bill, man. Look on the TV, man. They're charging me for all kinds. He's like, what the hell? And I go, I know, right? And he's like, he was freaking out, had no idea. Well, again, it's a little bit of a hack, and it's a little bit fun. What I found out was housekeeping or somebody else from the bar has to come through and verify you made those purchases. And they do send reset packets down about every half hour. So when I put the beer back, it reset. But it was a good time for me. So, VPN, protect your traffic so nobody can snoop. Finally, Tor, and that's where we're going to spend a lot of our time today. The onion router, that's what it stands for. Everybody here like Shrek? Yeah, because Shrek's got layers, right? Just like an onion. That's right, that's what we're going to talk about today. The onion router. Within the next 5 to 10 minutes, you guys will know more about Tor than most anybody that uses it. I will explain this in a very simple way. When I asked him to go get my coffee earlier, I asked him as a proxy. He went and got my coffee, brought it back, but he's going to give me up. Way to go, Robert. Okay, now, VPN works a little differently. A VPN, I make a private connection, and I walk into a room full of people just like you, and people are walking over and they're setting down orders for Starbucks, and any one of you could walk over and get it and walk out and come back, put the Starbucks with the thing there, and then I just come get it a few minutes later. You don't keep a log because you don't know my name. You don't know anything else about me. You're just busy running and getting stuff for people. That's a VPN. You're hidden in the mess of a whole bunch of other people, and all they know is that somebody keeps going in and out of these doors. A whole bunch of people do. Some of them come back with Starbucks, some of them come back with this, somebody come back with a pizza, okay? They don't know, though. It's really hard to differentiate one from another in a VPN, and the bigger the VPN, the better. So it's a little bit of security by obscurity when you're on a VPN. But I'm protecting myself against snoopers in the network where I'm at. so that all my stuff goes out there. That's a VPN. Tor's a little different. Here's how Tor works. Now, I'm going to ask for a coffee, but in Tor, we're actually going to hide this in layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to start with you again, Robert. I'm going to take a piece of paper and I'm going to say tall pike place with 3 Splendas. And I'm going to put it in an envelope that says starbucks.com. Then I'm going to put it inside another envelope that just has this long number on the outside, a unique number. Then I'm going to put it inside a third envelope. It has another long number on the outside. And it says internet. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk over. You're all Tor nodes. Poof. Hand this to Robert. Robert looks at it, says internet with a long number. Okay. So he pulls it out of the envelope and he goes, oh, that goes to this guy right here. Internet long number, writes down the long number. Then he leans over and, hold on, I'm going to pick on you, ma'am. What's your name? Christine. He walks over to Christine and he says, hey, you're a Tor node. Here you go. She looks at it and sees an envelope with a long number on it. And she's like, oh, okay, internet long number. And she remembers who he is. So she takes out the next envelope. And the nice lady in the back corner, your name? How do you say? Okay, sir, you're not, just kidding. How do you say that again? Can I just say D? D, okay, D. D takes it. D takes the envelope and she sees starbucks.com. Okay, so D now goes to starbucks.com. They open it up and they get me a tall pike place with 3 Splendas. They put the coffee back in the envelope and hand it back to D. D comes over. She goes, oh yeah, who gave me this? Oh, Christine gave this to me. All right? So she puts it in the envelope, gives it to Christine. Christine looks at that number on it and says, oh, I remember this really long number. Oh, yeah, that went to Robert. Robert's like, thank you. He goes, oh, I remember this really long number. That went to this guy and gave it to me. I open up the envelope and I have my coffee. Now, does Robert know that I got a coffee? His envelope just said internet with numbers, right? Does Christine know that I got a coffee? Does Christine know who I am? She has no idea who I am. Does she know where that packet went? Does she even know it went to Starbucks? Because remember, all she saw was an internet long number. Does D know who I am? No. Do you see how Tor works with layers? By default, 3 layers per connection, by default. You can make it even more. But by default, the way Tor works is I take my traffic and I encrypt it in 3 different layers of encryption, and I hand it to somebody who hands it to another Tor node, who hands it to a third Tor node, and then it goes to the internet. D is slightly different than Robert and Christine. She's an exit node. If you choose to participate in the Tor network, you are not an exit node by default. You have to choose to be an exit node. You will be a relay node. You'll be one of the people that I'm passing traffic through. And you're doing this, but you won't be an exit node unless you choose to be. So if instead of going to Starbucks, I decided to send a threatening letter to the president, whose IP address is going to come back on that letter? D's, correct, hers. Because she's the one that went across the internet and delivered it. So as a law enforcement officer, if I find out you're a Tor node, and there are databases I can look that up, most of the time I'm not even going to waste my time. Because I know you're going to say, heck, I didn't do it, I don't know, I was a Tor node. So can anybody in here give me a good reason that you'd want to be a Tor exit node?
Make money.
Excuse me?
Make money.
How do you make money being an exit node? Good call. Make money. You don't know how? Okay. I don't think you're going to make much money being an exit node. I really don't. You might get harassed by law enforcement. I harassed several people who continued to be exit nodes even though bad things were happening. That's okay. Give me a good reason. Yes, sir.
Potentially like stop threats by...
You could potentially stop threats. Okay, you guys are thinking like good guys, okay? Except for you, sir. No, think like a bad guy. But no, think like a good guy too. But think, stopping threats was his answer. I like it, and I'd love to know how you're going to stop a threat with Tor. Yes?
You can see all the fun stuff.
Oh, okay, you can see all the fun stuff. That's a good one. You know what? I did that once. And I will tell you, 99% of what you're going to see is porn, and and people probably surfing at work, porn, and some propaganda extremist stuff. You'll see that. But yeah, you'll see some fun stuff. This is why if I was doing Tor, I'm probably not going to go try to log into my bank or my email, because people like him are going to be surfing and sniffing all my traffic. Did you have a suggestion?
You don't like law enforcement. So
That's a good reason, because you don't like law enforcement. Okay, I'll go with that, yeah. Let me help you out here. There are certain countries in the world that do not want you going to certain websites. There are people out there who try to censor what you can do on the internet. Some of them have a really great wall that they try to censor with. And they do this quite often, okay? Now, on the other hand, if I use Tor, did I go to Starbucks? No, I talked to Robert. If anybody's watching my traffic, I talk to Robert. I talk to Robert all the time. Now, yeah, there are ways for me to detect that I spoke to him in Tor language, but I talked to Robert. I didn't go to that site. So Tor does help people around the world to evade censorship. And I'm a fan of that. There are people that can't get their news any other way other than through things like Tor. So there are some good reasons for it, beyond just simply looking at the fun stuff. You can actually help people by using Tor. You can see that media outlets are putting their stuff on Tor, maybe because certain people who could or could not be whistleblowers do not want to risk their IP coming back. As a law enforcement officer, sometimes I want to go read a website. Now, at the FBI, they gave us two networks by default. They gave us the high classified stuff, the red side as we would call it, and then we had the green side, the unclass side. And that unclassified network had internet access, and we could go out and look at stuff on the internet. But in the government's infinite wisdom, they take all of these internet connections on all the FBI offices, and they fire them right back to a place called CJIS, C-J-I-S, Criminal Justice Information Systems, back out of West Virginia. So if I'm a bad guy, and I have a bad website, and all of a sudden one day I get a hit on my logs that comes from CJIS, that would be a clue that the FBI was looking at me. Yeah. So as an agent, we didn't want to use that network because it could give away who you were. And law enforcement didn't want to let them know we're looking at them. So I could use Tor to go look at other websites. In my first foray into international terrorism, if I wanted to view certain websites overseas, maybe I wanted to make sure that I was coming from the correct country. I didn't want to tie it back to us. Tor can be used for some really good things. Absolutely. It's just that, unfortunately, most people use it for the fun stuff. So I just told you this whole diagram. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. We got Robert, Christine, and Dee going out to the internet. That's all there is to it. So I just got my Starbucks. I love it. Thank you very much. It was a little shaken in the package, but I'll take it. Unfortunately, the government just stepped in. We're never allowed to have any fun. Starbucks has now been made illegal. Just like the days of Prohibition. No more coffee. And I'm sure some of you know some people in here that if you tried to take their coffee away, ooh, not going to be a good day, right? And I dare say there will be people. So now what happens is I still really want my coffee. And I heard a rumor that there's actually a hidden Tor website out there called Torbucks. And they make really good coffee at Torbucks. But they don't want to be found out, so they're not going to open a brick and mortar store. So now what we have are called hidden services. The way a hidden service works is I create a website and I put it out there, but you can only get to it if you're on Tor. So now the way it works is I put my order in with Robert. I put it in the 3 different envelopes. I put it together. He hands it off to Christine, hands it off to Dee. And Dee's like, whoa, this doesn't say Starbucks.com. This says Torbucks.onion. And that's the clue. We're back to the onion. Torbucks.onion. When she sees the .onion address, she's like, wait a second, this is a hidden website. So then she actually takes it, without getting too deep on you, hands it off to somebody else, hands it off to a gentleman in Illinois. What's your name? KD. KD's going to get it and go, yeah, I know all kinds of people. And I know people right now that have hidden websites. This .onion address, I can fix you up. He's going to go deliver it to the .onion website for me. Torbucks is going to get the offer. They're going to put it in the package, and the path repeats, going backwards. Now, I get my Torbucks coffee. Okay, do you know who I am? Once again, he has no idea who I am. Now, let me ask you something. Do I know who the heck Torbucks is? I don't, do I? Because it went through this path, and he delivered it. I didn't tell him where to go. I said I want to go to Torbucks. He knows who Torbucks is. I don't know. He handed it off, but he doesn't know who I am. So you see how the anonymity works? So they created what's called a hidden website that you can only get to through the Tor network. So obviously there's some bad things we could do because now, hey, I can put a website up and the cops can't find me. That's the thought process, right? So I worked crimes against children for a very long time, some of the best work I ever did. And unfortunately, I had to put a lot of people away. I felt like I saved kids. But also, unfortunately, with Tor, child endangerment websites were one of the first things that went up. And people would post their pictures and trade and do things like that and say, now the cops can't catch me. And it's anonymous. There's a lot of bad things that go on out there. But good things like WikiLeaks and other ones that say, hey, we want to give somebody an anonymous safe harbor to come tell us things, they also created .onion websites. So it is a double-edged sword. Okay? But that's what a Tor hidden website is. Now, I've told you several times, you have to know how to get there. You have to know the address. You have to know how to do all that. I'm going to now tell you how you do this. And it's so simple, it's ridiculous. So easy. If you want to get to that speakeasy, you have to know how to get there. You have to know the .onion. But what's the vehicle? Simple. It's called the Tor browser. That's simple. You go to torproject.org and you download the Tor browser. It's going to give you a whole list of downloads. And when you pull this thing up, it's going to look remarkably like Firefox. Why? Because it is Firefox. They've just added some extensions that whenever you send anything out through the Tor browser, it immediately goes out through Tor. Whether I'm going to starbucks.com, which is a legitimate site, or I'm going to the .onion site, I'm going to route it through the Tor network. And in the upper left corner of when you have your Tor browser, you'll see a little onion, and it'll set up the connection for you, and it'll give you all through Tor. It works great. I'm going to take a quick chance here. See if we can do this. I'm having to do this over my shoulder instead of on my, so give it one quick second here, waiting for Tor to start. I launched the Tor browser. We are now connecting to the network. I'll give it a second. If it doesn't, we've got our screenshots, but now we're getting relay information. Now we're learning all your names and IPs because you're all Tor nodes. So I put you in the Tor network. That way, when I decide to pick on 3 people to go out, I know who to pick on. That's what we're doing right now. We're loading our relay information. And then finally, we're going to get a list of exit nodes. Thank you, ma'am. She's an exit node because eventually we have to get to the internet. And it's going to stick here like this for a few minutes. All right, the heck with it. All right, you know what? Oh, yay, we got a circuit. Okay, we now have a circuit. Okay, we're out. So, I'm almost scared to see what I've got bookmarked. I normally...
Coffee sites?
Let's go, okay, we'll go here. That's fine. This is a normal website. It's a .com website. Oh, for Pete's sake. They're getting DDoSed a lot, so they're using Cloudflare protection. That's fine. This is a .com website. This is not a .onion website, but it's still going through Tor, and it's still loading all these pages. Come on, thing. And we are up and live. So this is actually just a .com site. But if you want to figure out what I'm doing and who I am, if you come up here and click on this, what? Why do we not? Oh, it's going to make a liar out of me. Come on. I don't want a new identity. Normally, this thing will pop up. I thought it would do it right there for me and show me my 3 nodes. I thought it was supposed to be on the left-hand side, but I'm not seeing it right now. Let me do a full screen, see if that'll... Oh, sorry. I got appointments. Apparently, I'm skipping. Why is this thing... Okay, how about a new identity? Build me up. Yes, restart me. So, shame on me for not testing ahead of time. Normally when you click on the onion, maybe it's because it wants a new browser update instead of this one, you will get the list of the 3 sites that you're going to. I did this just last week. I don't know what its problem is. But normally you will get a list of the 3 different nodes that you're going through. Most recently, I've been getting things like France. I've been going through France and then England and then back to the US. There's been several in Germany that I've been hitting. You will see 3 different countries that you hit. That's why if you go to something like Google through the Tor browser, you may get a completely different language. It's whatever country roulette that happens to come up. And that's the way that one goes. So, all right, we won't waste any more time on this business. Let's get back over here and do this. So, if you want to get to the internet or get to the dark web, all you have to do is download the Tor browser. Now, that's part of the battle. Now we know how to get there, but we got to figure out where do we want to go. Well, these addresses on the Onion sites are not just torbucks.onion. They're really long hashes. You can put a little piece of it in there that people recognize, but you're not going to remember all those. Heck, I bet most people in this room can't even remember their mom's telephone number. Can you? You have to go on your phone and click mom to call her. But if you have to remember the phone number, I don't remember the number. I go in there. Mom got a new number last week. She lost her phone again. Whatever. You don't always know the phone numbers, okay? Well, people do a horrible job at remembering really long things. So we look for things like DNS and stuff to help us. Well, there is no real DNS for the dark web. The dark web has no DNS that you can go look up .onion sites and stuff like that. So you have to remember certain websites. So what they've done is people have created pages that will give them to you. So let's just go by category. Let's say we want some financial services. Nah, let's just say we want some drugs. Well, then we click on that. And if we say, okay, and then it's going to give us a whole list of websites. Maybe some digital goods or some erotic, fun stuff right over here with the gambling too. You never know. But it's going to give you the .onion that gets you to the darknet site. Then you can click on it and go there. So let's take a look. What I do when I do these things live, and you can see how well it was working today, I would go someplace like deep.web.com and I would see these onion addresses. See all these long things here? These are actually mirrors for the dream market. Dream market is still active, but I'm going to tell you right now, nobody trusts it. Everybody thinks it's owned by the authorities. So nobody's buying, selling, or doing much on the dream market right now. Okay? They think that it's a honeypot. But it is still active. But you can get to the dream market by clicking on any of those links. Once you're there, you can simply register for an existing account up there, register for a new account up there. You pick a name, a password, some sort of like a PIN code or something like that in case you want to withdraw money from there, and then you're off and running. They don't need your email address. They don't need to know anything else about you. There is no two-factor authentication for your cell phone because that would tie right back to you, right? So you simply create an account and you're on the dark web. Once you get on the dark web on a marketplace, what are you going to see? This is what you're going to see. On the left-hand side, there'll be categories, and you can pick. In this one, I'm actually already in the fraud category, and for the low, low price of $21.56, I can get a PGE template for a utility bill in Poland. Why do I want to have a utility bill from Poland? I don't know. But for 21 bucks, I can buy it. I guess I want to show somebody I live in Poland. How to change your MAC address. How to scam Amazon and get refunds on old orders. Well, that would be interesting. Okay. It only cost me $1.19, $1.20 almost to go find out how to scam Amazon. That's not bad. These are under the fraud category. But I was an FBI agent for a long time, and as an FBI agent, I was a firearms instructor. I've shot a weapon for a long time, carried one every day for a very long time. So when I got on the dark web, I said, wait a second. I'm going to go buy a gun. So I typed in 9mm for a 9mm. Well, I get 9mm manuals. I get these stones over here, Emerald VVS. I get another stone. I get a watch for some reason, a Patek Philippe for only $466. I'm sure it's authentic, you know, for that. But also I get this, and I saw it and thought, what? First of all, that's false advertising because I asked for a 9mm, and this is clearly a .40 caliber. But then I thought to myself, wait a second, maybe that's clever advertising because it's still a gun, right? Now, as a former FBI agent and a law-abiding citizen, I can walk in and I can get a gun. I have a permit, I have everything else, I can walk in, I can do a background check, I can pass, I can buy the gun. The FBI does not let you keep your weapon like a lot of local agencies will let you. So I had, for the entire time I was there, a Glock 22 .40 caliber. It was the standard issue during my time at the FBI. I've literally shot probably tens of thousands of rounds through this weapon. I know how it feels in my hand. I like this weapon. I'm very comfortable with it. So right after I got out of the FBI, the first thing I did was I went and bought one. Because I've done this for so long, I wanted a personal weapon that I'm comfortable with. Cost me around 470 bucks, I think, brand new. And I walked out of there that day with a gun. But what if I wasn't a law-abiding citizen? What if I couldn't pass a background check? Well, now all I have to do is go on the dark web, and for $1,558, I can buy the exact same gun. So you see how bad things can happen out there. I can now buy that weapon for $1,558. Now, there's a premium because I'm a bad guy, and I have to pay more. It's the black market. That's what it is. But I could absolutely go out there and do it. So let's get into some more fun stuff, okay? I got my gun. We already got my gun, so now we need to go party it up a little bit. Let's get some drugs. Here we go. If I want to go buy some speed paste, or we're recording this, so I was going to ask you guys, what's the new hot drug nowadays? But since we're recording, I don't want to ask. Anybody want some Molly? We can get some Molly over here. Or we can get some crack if we really want to, okay? For a good price here. All this stuff is advertised. But we have some choices to make. Let's narrow it down a little bit. Now, up here we have 100% uncut Bolivian cocaine with free shipping. That's important. Or over here, we get 90% pure uncut cocaine. Right here, no free shipping. But over here, I've got a guy named Roxy Killa who's selling it. And over here, I got a guy named Dutch Cartel. It tells me it ships from the Netherlands over here, and this ships from the US over here. This is $46.50 a gram. This is probably roughly the same price, because that's in euros, 39.99 euros. Okay, so actually that might be a bit more. That might actually be more like 50 American. So that's $50 a gram. This is $46.50 a gram. Who are we going to buy our cocaine from? Dutch Cartel. Is that's what I'm hearing? Pretty much Dutch Cartel? You guys are just, oh my God. Come on, we're going to make cocaine great again. Buy American. Buy American. We're actually going to buy from this guy. Can anybody tell me why? Well, you know what? Yeah. I like Dutch Cartel. Why were you saying Dutch Cartel? Because I know why you were saying Dutch Cartel. So why did you say Dutch Cartel?
higher rating for shipping.
Higher rating, higher feedback. This is like eBay for drugs, right? Dutch Cartel has a 4.76 rating, but he's got 1,394 feedbacks. So that's pretty darn good. Now, Roxy Killa's got a 4.78, but he's only got 102 feedbacks. So if I send my hard-earned money to a drug dealer, I want a reputable drug dealer, damn it. I want one that I feel like is going to send me what I bought. And this guy's got almost 1,400 responses. He's reliable. So I'm going to do that. However, if this one comes from the Netherlands and this comes from the US, anybody in here ever gotten anything in your mailbox you didn't ask for? Junk mail, pamphlets. Sometimes it says resident, sometimes it says your name on it, right? Yeah, things can show up all the time. It happens. But if you go international, you might have to deal with additional layers, such as customs, border protection, x-rays, things like that. You're running a little bit of a risk if you do it that way. So in this case, we're going to buy American, even though it's only 90% pure, because I'm going to tell you right now, folks, there is no 100% pure. Okay? This is all advertising, but apparently this person is pretty reliable and sends out their stuff. So let's look at something else. We go to another page, because how are we going to pay for it? Well, you know what? I don't really have the Bitcoin right now, so I need to get me some money. So lo and behold, I can buy a counterfeit $20 bill right here, and it's high quality from this person for $3.29. Well, that's $16.71 profit right there. I get a $20 bill for $3.29, and it ships from inside the US. This guy's got 813 on a feedback with an average of 4.66 out of 5 stars. Now we're getting counterfeit money. This also comes on the dark web. So we're talking about doing some things right here. We're going to talk about buying and selling. We just talked about domestic versus international. Okay? I personally, I'm vouching for the domestic. If I order from these two people and it has to go overseas, it's going to take a while. It's got to go through a bunch of different layers. But I'm here to tell you right now, folks, if you buy domestic, the absolute most reliable, absolute best drug courier in the entire world is the United States Postal Service. That's right. Rain, sleet, or snow, you're going to get that gun or that Coke. Okay? But they will deliver. And there's so many packages, no, they can't track everything. Okay? So where am I going to have this U.S. mail shipped? Am I going to send it to my house, or am I going to send it to the neighbor's house, or where am I going to send it? My school? Where am I going to send it?
A P.O. box.
A P.O. box. That's an idea, and that absolutely works. A P.O. box. Good idea. I'm soliciting, because you know the best answer I ever got out of this? I asked somebody. They said, wait till your boss is on vacation and send it to their name at the office. I was like, ooh, sneaky. And I see how these people are thinking, right? Yeah, that's right. P.O. box. Now, am I going to put my name on it or somebody else's name? Somebody else's name. Well, let me ask you something. If I send something to somebody else's name at the P.O. box and the P.O. box isn't registered to them, what happens? Yeah, it happens. If I send it to a house that nobody lives in, the post office knows that. They usually won't deliver. But I just asked you, have you ever got anything in your mailbox that you didn't ask for? Yeah. Yeah, people put their real names on it. It happens, okay? It happens because it makes it more reliable. But if you do send your real name and real address to a drug dealer, whether they're in the Netherlands or the US, you don't want to do it in plain text, and you don't want to do it in the open, so you want to use something like PGP and do encryption. But then finally, I have to get them some money. So we're going to use cryptocurrency. So here's how the whole process works. Bitcoin is not anonymous. It's not. By its very nature, it cannot be anonymous. They have to be able to track everything with cryptocurrencies on the ledgers. It's also very fluid in its value. It's driven by the market. I've seen it as low as a few $100s to its peak at almost 20,000 per Bitcoin not too long ago. Bitcoin is not illegal. The IRS says you can have it. You must simply declare when you bought it, and if you sell it, what your profits were, just like any stock or asset. You can also declare the losses against those increases if you make them. Bitcoin is not illegal, okay? And it is the most prevalent cryptocurrency that's out there. So the way it works is if I open that website up and I go and I make myself a new account on a marketplace, I told you have to create a PIN. They're going to give you an address that if you need to ship cryptocurrency to somebody, you ship your cryptocurrency into that account. Once it's in there, if I decide to click on that gun or those drugs and I buy them, the money comes out of my cryptocurrency account on that site and it goes into escrow. And then once it's in escrow, the buyer says, hey, here's your money. I've put it up there. You send them your name and address. You do it through some form of encryption like PGP, and the seller gets it. The seller then boxes up whatever product you've bought, the gun, the drugs, the money, the fake money, whatever we're looking at, and they send it to you and they mark it shipped. Now, they will never require your signature on it. However, they are going to track it. What the process should happen is when you get your ill-gotten gains here, you go back to the website, you say, I got them, you give it feedback, you tell them how cool they are, fast shipping, whatever you want to say, okay, and you say, release the money out of escrow. The money then goes to the seller, minus a very small commission for the darknet market operator. Whoever runs that website gets a little bit of a commission, okay? And that's how they make money. Now, if, however, I say, oh, no, I never got it. Oh, no, I never got it. Remember how I said they put tracking on it? Well, then what happens is the seller simply uses Tor, goes to the USPS website, puts in the tracking number and says, oh, yeah, well, the U.S. government said they delivered those guns to you last week. They show that to the market operator and the money is released. So there's protection by using escrow. And that's how the whole transaction occurs. Now, a couple years ago when I started doing this, darknet markets were everywhere. And they were always up, and they were green, 97, 98% uptime. Not too terribly long ago, I went out and looked at the same thing. We're down a lot. There's not nearly as many markets left. So why is this? Well, I told you about escrow a few moments ago. Well, back in 2015, I was at the Bureau doing this at the time. The biggest and most prevalent market out there was this one, Evolution. Well, Evolution was run by two people. And we saw those drugs. We live in Arizona. We know where this stuff comes from. It was estimated at one point that at any given moment, there was between $30 and $70 million sitting in escrow at Evolution. It was fluctuating all the time, but it was on average between $30 and $70 million. Well, one day, these people who ran the website are getting a cut from every transaction. They're making money, but they're scared they're going to get caught. So one day, they pulled the plug and they walked away with $50 million. And they were never heard from again. So either they're really, really good at hiding or they're not. So takedowns also, I know we're running out of time. I'm going to run through this real quick. Takedowns, the feds will bust the sites. They catch people all the time. There's no money in it for the operators. Here's some more takedowns that happen. But I promised you at the very beginning, I'll tell you about the new cool hotness. Now, anybody here use Telegram? We have one Telegram user. A couple maybe? Telegram. They don't want to be. They want to stop it. But people are creating channels right now to sell bad things. You lose the escrow, and you lose that big feedback rating, but people still trade information. But they are creating channels that you can go in, and bots will hit you with advertisements for that fake money, for those guns, for the drugs, for everything that used to be on the darknet markets. You can buy them in a Telegram room. Here's an example. Here's one from malware. They're offering a full rat panel. This is a remote administration tool, i.e. it will take over your computer, give them full control over your computer. You can go in, these are ads that will pop up, and you can work directly with the seller. There's no website to take down because it's a peer-to-peer process with Telegram, but you can go directly to the seller. ID theft. Come in here and you look at this one, you can buy a scan of documents. Here you can get driver license easy, it says. Okay, I don't know what country that's in. Also get other things from different places, buy documents. But this is the scariest one out there. When I do this talk for employers and corporations, this is the scariest one, jobs. The reason it's scary is they're advertising for any Western Union or MoneyGram employee who works in the call center with access to Visualizer. We will pay you $1,000 a day. They are advertising for insider theft. Insiders are the absolute hardest intrusion there is for me to catch. Insiders have access, they have knowledge, okay, of what the systems are, they know the network better than me, and they probably already have accounts. Insiders are the biggest threat to corporations, and they're advertising for an insider threat right here. They'll pay you $1,000 today. So when I talk to companies and I say, hey, when you have that disgruntled call center employee, it's an issue. If there's a reason to be concerned, we need to watch the traffic. We need to do those statistics. We need to figure out who is our big threat. That's what's going on Telegram. So to wrap it up, I've talked to you today about using a VPN to be safe. If you do get on the dark web, don't give out anything personally identifiable, okay? I don't want you to go to any of these darknet markets. I hope I satisfied your curiosity about how these things are done. But if you want to go on the dark web, there are some legitimate reasons. You simply go to get the Tor browser, spin it up, and anything you do gets bounced through Tor all around the world. You can make a new circuit. You can make it more than 3. Do whatever you want. It is a little slow, as you saw, because I'm going through multiple people, but Tor works, and it's a good site. So, bringing it to the end, what questions do you have for me today? Because I know some of you have other classes and stuff to run off to, and I'm so sorry for going over. Yeah, yes, sir.
Do you use Tor for paying your bills?
Do you use Tor for paying your bills? You can use Tor for paying your bills. I would not recommend it. If I'm paying the bill, you already know who I am. So therefore, just go direct to the site and use encryption. Good question, though. Anyone else? Give me one more. Yes, sir.
Well, I heard the news a couple of years ago, some foreign country, I think Australia or something, TD, arrested some hacker who hosted on some Tor site. And after that, actually, police keep running that website. What that for?
Yes.
No information here.
So the question is, the police did a takedown on a website, and then he heard that they continued to run it. Absolutely true. So the biggest takedown of something similar happened not too long ago. The biggest market out there on the internet was called Alpha Bay. Alpha Bay was a huge darknet market. When Evolution was gone, Alpha Bay became #1. Now, the Dutch authorities, in connection with Interpol, the FBI, and other people, worked together, and they actually, through other techniques, figured out what servers were hosting this darknet market, and they took them over. When they did that, they found out that the second most popular darknet market out there, called Hansa, was also being run. So now they had 2 markets, so they employed this strategy. They went onto the Alpha Bay market, and they put up one of those banners that you saw that said, guess what, we own this website. Well, they knew full well that when everybody was done with Alpha Bay and they couldn't buy and sell anymore, they were going to run right over to Hansa and register it. But they already got Hansa. They already owned it. And so they watched all the registrations that came over. They saw everybody typing in their info, especially the vendors. That's what they really cared about. And they figured out who the sellers were. They waited about 30 days, and they popped a banner up there that said, hey, we not only own this website, we've owned it for the last 30 days. So in the business that day, we say the pucker factor was real high. Yeah, there were a lot of very nervous people that day. But law enforcement will take over bad criminal enterprises in order to find out the next level up. In this case, they got the darknet market, but they wanted to find out who the sellers were, who the vendors were. That's who they really wanted. And so, of course, they absolutely leveraged those sites to that end. Great question. Are we good? Thank you so much for your time. I certainly appreciate it. I hope you learned something. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Still recording?